chapter we had seen how Muslim League was formed, how initially the Britishers partitioned Bengal by sowing the seeds of on the basis of communal lines and divided Hindus and Muslims, right? And then later on we saw even on the other hand, Muslim League was also supported this partition because they also had their own personal interests towards it. And then we also saw there was a difference between moderates, okay, and the radicals, right? But then later on towards the end of the chapter we saw how all of them, whether it was moderates or radicals, they came together, whether it was the Hindus or the Muslims, they also came together, and they realized that we, instead of fighting among ourselves, we should fight with our real enemy, who are the Britishers, right? We saw that, right, in the previous chapter. And then together they came with the intention of fighting against the Britishers, and they also followed each other. Now see, initially Muslim League was presenting their demands to the Britishers individually, and on the other hand we had Congress who was also presenting their demands individually. But later on when they all came together, they used to represent, okay, or put forward their grievances together to the Britishers. And apart from that, we also saw that initially even the moderates and the radicals came together, but their unity was very short lived. Why did it happen? Who will tell me?
Ma'am,
May
because
I?
ma'am, yeah.
Yes, Vivan.
Ma'am, because the moderates expelled out the radicals.
Yes. Moderates expelled out the radicals, but why? That's the reason I'm asking. Why there was
Ma'am,
a
may I?
yes, yeah.
Ma'am, they expelled out the radicals because their methods were very different from each other, because the moderates were very peace loving and they did their process very slowly, but these radicals were very fast. They didn't have patience to wait.
Yes. Okay. So now we'll see the second chapter, which is the continuation of the same. That in this particular chapter, that is National Movement 2, milestones. Following the signing of Lucknow Pact in 1916. Okay, we also know the Lucknow Pact. What was Lucknow Pact? Who will tell me? What was included in Lucknow Pact?
Ma'am, yeah.
Yes, Vivan.
Ma'am, in 1916, Congress held the session in Lucknow.
Hmm.
Ma'am, in
Hmm.
Lucknow, all the nationalist Muslims like Muhammad Ali brothers, Muhammad
Hmm.
Ali, Maulana Shaukat Ali, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, ma'am, they came. In the Lucknow Pact, the Congress had two branches, the moderates and the radicals. They also again joined together, and the
Hmm.
Muslims also, the Muslim leagues, the prominent
Hmm.
Congress leaders
Hmm.
also joined them, the Congress. They
Yes.
made a big pact and of unity, and they fought
Yes.
against the same enemy, the enemy that was.
Yes. Yes. This is what we saw towards the end of the chapter. That is the Lucknow Pact. I hope everybody could recall. Very good,
Yes,
Vivan.
ma'am,
Okay.
you are
Now,
going to discuss the questions.
yeah, but majority said they wanted to start with a new chapter. Okay, the British government realized that repressive measures alone could not check the rising tide of anti-British feeling. They realized that some reforms would have to be granted to appease the nationalists and bring the anti-British movement under control. So now after this, when the Britishers saw, oh, they are all coming together. See, basically what was the policy of the Britishers? To divide everyone. Okay, to divide Hindus and Muslims, to divide moderates and extremists, and to rule them. But now when they saw that everybody is coming together and everybody is forming are having this, developing this feeling of anti-British, so they thought that they should they realized that some reforms would have to be granted. This is very important. Some reforms would have to be granted, uh, and so that they could make the Indians understand that yes, we are also serious about your grievances, and to stop this developing feeling of anti-British. So that's the reason. With that intention, they thought that okay, we'll at least grant them few things so that they do not agitate, or they do not stand against us. The British government therefore passed the Government of India Act in 1919. Please underline that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Or have in accepting few of their demands, what did the British government do? They passed an act, okay, the Government of India Act in 1919, or this act is also called as Montagu Chelmsford Reforms. Okay, this act, now we'll see what is there in this act. Okay, what exactly this act is all about. The act provided for dual government in the provinces, severely restricted the right to vote, enlarged the provincial legislative councils, and the governor general remained unanswerable to the secretary of the state. Okay, so you remember we had done dual government before?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So now in this act, they definitely first severely restricted the right to vote. Secondly, they enlarged the provincial legislative councils, and thirdly, the governor general remained answerable to the secretary of the state. Now, the reforms failed to appease the people. Real authority continued in the hands of the British. The Congress condemned the reforms as disappointing and unsatisfactory. A new era of struggle began. That was called as the Gandhian era. So see, basically, when they saw the Lucknow Pact was signed, and when they saw everybody's coming together and forming a unity, they are now united against the British government. So British government thought that okay, we'll give them some changes, some we'll accept some reforms, and so that they are pacified. And what did they do? They came up with this act, the Government of India Act. And in this act, what they gave, they brought the changes, but still the Indians were not happy with it. Why? Because, please underline, the real authority continued to be in the hands of the Britishers. Please underline, okay? They did not like that. So because even if they are giving the reforms, accepted the reforms, but the main authority was still in the hands of the Britishers, and therefore they were very disappointed, and they were unsatisfactory. And therefore, in result to this, what did they do? They started the new era, which was called as the Gandhian era. Okay. Now, this is very interesting. This entire chapter is very interesting about the Gandhian era. Now, number one, emergence of Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, popularly known as Mahatma Gandhi. Underline this. Full name of Mahatma Gandhi is?
Mohandas
Mohandas
Karamchand
Karamchand
Gandhi.
Karamchand
Gandhi.
Gandhi.
Yes. He was born in the year 1869. Where? Where? At
Porbandar.
Porbandar,
Purandar
Gujarat.
in Gujarat.
Porbandar in 1869.
Yes. Gandhiji studied law in England and spent about 22 years in South Africa as a practicing lawyer. So he studied law from England, and he was like he spent almost 22 years of his age in South Africa, where he was practicing there as a lawyer. Fine. Now, I hope you all know about the incident, the train incident, which happened with Gandhiji.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes,
He
ma'am.
ma'am.
has
Was
been
thrown
pushed
out of
out
the
of
Ma'am,
the
train.
he was
train
removed
because
from the
of,
train,
yeah.
ma'am, because it was for the whites only, first class.
Yes,
Yes.
so basically it was based due to the racial discrimination which they had for the whites. The compartments were different, the privileges
Yes, ma'am.
given to
Although
the.
he had the first class ticket with him.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
so although he had bought the first class ticket, but just because it was reserved only for the whites, how was he treated?
He was
Ma'am,
pushed
he was
out.
pushed and hit.
Yes, okay. He was pulled out of that compartment which he had boarded, although he had bought the ticket. Now, the racial discrimination and the humiliating conditions under which Indians lived in that country shocked and angered Gandhiji, because he himself, after that incident only, he also realized, okay, this is what is happening with the Indians, other Indians also in India. Okay, he after and seeing this racial discrimination and the humiliated condition of the Indians, what did he do? He became the leader of a struggle against the racial injustice in South Africa. Please underline this. He became the leader of this racial discrimination which was done in South Africa. During the struggle, he evolved a technique which was known as satyagraha. Please underline. which was later applied to the Indian national movement. Okay, Satyagraha played a very important role. Satyagraha, non-cooperation, quit India movement, civil disobedience movement. So we'll study all about these.
Dandi March also.
Yes. Clear? Now let's see what were the different methods which Gandhiji used, to fight against the Britishers. Now, till now we had seen two different methods. Which were the two methods? Which were the two methods?
Ma'am,
Huh?
early nationalist
Huh? Early
and
nationalists, that is
and
the
assertive
moderators, and
nationalist.
on the other hand, the radicals.
Radical.
That is the assertive nationalists. Okay, so we had seen till now, we had seen these two methods. One was extremely peaceful, one was extremely agitated. Now let's see what is Gandhiji's method. Satyagraha is a combination. This is very important. Satyagraha is a combination of two Sanskrit words. Satya means truth and graha means eagerness. Okay, so Satyagraha, the meaning of Satyagraha is what? It is based on two principles, twin principles. One principle was truth, the other principle was non-violence. Underline truth and non-violence. Just underline Satyagraha and underline truth and non-violence. Okay, so Satyagraha means truth and non-violence. Please underline truth and non-violence. Okay. Truth and non-violence. The Satyagrahi was one who firmly believed in truth and non-violence. Okay, Satyagrahis were the one who believed in truth and non-violence. That means we will support the truth, and we will. How are we going to support? We are going to support through non-violence. What do we mean by non-violence?
Ma'am, no war.
Ma'am, no war. Like peace
No
in a
war
peace
and
manner.
Peacefully
no
resolving the problems. Okay,
In
and who would resist evil at all costs. The Satyagrahis was peaceful, fearless, as well as strong. So this is the combination of both. They were peaceful also, they were fearless also, and they were strong also. He or she would hate evil, but not the evil doer. In the fight of justice and truth, the Satyagrahi would, do not underline that. In the fight of justice, for justice, the truth and justice and truth, the Satyagrahi would willingly accept suffering and be ready to make sacrifices. This is important. So Satyagrahi means what? Willingly accepting the sufferings and ready to make sacrifices. Okay, so can you see, on one hand it was extremists, on the other hand it was moderates, and in between, the in between path which was taken up was by the Satyagrahis. Although they were peaceful, but still they were very strong and they were fearless. The sufferings and patience of the Satyagrahis was accepted to bring about a change of heart in the enemy. The idea behind Satyagraha was not to destroy the enemy, but to, this is important. What was the idea of Satyagraha? Not to destroy the enemy, but to transform and enlighten him. Okay, so basically, not having an evil, or not having hatred towards the person who has done them, but having hatred towards what they had done. Okay, destroying the enemy, but not having enmity with the person, with the doer. Okay, Gandhiji insisted on non-violent methods of struggle. Okay, non-violent. He basically focused, or he basically gave a lot of emphasis on non-violent methods. Please underline non-violent methods. He believed that non-violence as a weapon of a strong and could be effectively used to resist armed attacks by the enemies. So what was his belief? He believed that non-violence is the strongest weapon which they could use it against the Britishers who had good, who had full arms, and they were full of military. They had excellent military. They had excellent weapons. A Satyagrahi was expected to follow peaceful methods under extreme provocation. Non-violent methods of struggle in India consisted of, underline, non-cooperation with the British. How being non-violent, and how being going against the Britishers. Okay, so Now, non-cooperation. This is very important. The word itself is self-explanatory. You will definitely get a question based upon non-cooperation. Okay. The word non means not, you're not going to cooperate with the Britishers anymore. Okay. Let's see what things are included in this. Number one, peaceful demonstrations. Okay, we will come up with rallies. We will definitely agitate if there's anything wrong, but in a peaceful way, with peaceful, by protesting with peaceful rallies. Second, defense of unjust British laws, boycotting British goods, institutions and services, boycotting all the British goods, all the foreign goods, all the British schools, colleges and government services. Okay, using charkha. Charkha was here brought. That means making our own Indian product instead of using the Britishers product. Okay, that means using charkha and khadi to promote for that, so that we are self-reliant and we also produce Swadeshi spirit through that. If we have, we should make our own and use our own instead of using the clothes which were, or the goods which were brought up by the Britishers. Fifth, non-payment of oppressive taxes. That means wherever it is not required, the payment of the taxes was not required and the Britishers had forcefully implemented those taxes. So definitely you're going to oppress on such taxes, paying such taxes. Can you tell me which was such tax? Which
Ma'am,
was
the
the
salt tax.
Salt tax.
very good, the salt tax, because salt is basic commodity, which whether it is a person belonging to a rich family or a poor family would definitely use salt for making food. And everybody was not able to afford that, right? And therefore he, the first step which he did was he took a stand against the salt tax. Clear non-cooperation methods, what things was included in
Yes,
non-cooperation?
ma'am.
Everyone is clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next. The Hindu-Muslim unity. Now, Gandhiji also supported this unity, okay? Gandhiji was a devout Hindu and a passionate believer. This is very important. He was a believer in equality of all religions. Just underline, believer in equality of all religions. He wrote, Indian culture is neither Hindu, Islamic, or nor any other wholly. It's a fusion of all. Okay. He was convinced that the part of India's salvation lay in Hindu Muslim unity. Underline this. So, if you really want India to progress, the unity between Hindus and Muslims was compulsory. Gandhiji lived and died for the cause of Hindu-Muslim unity. So this was his basic, belief that if India want to progress, having unity between Hindu and Muslim community is much required. Okay, until his death, he worked and he struggled for bringing the Hindus and the Muslims together. Clear? Clear till here, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Mass
ma'am.
movement. Gandhiji had immense faith in the capacity of the common people to struggle against the oppression. Under his leadership, the Indian movement was transformed into a mass movement. Underline common people to struggle and underline transformed into mass movement. Okay, so basically, he believed that if common people come and if they fight, it is definitely going to have a big impact. And he also believed that national movement, because of him, the national movement was transformed into a mass movement. Okay, that means he got a larger audiences or large mass people who supported Gandhiji for his cause. Can you scroll down? Next is social justice. Gandhiji was a great believer in social justice. He campaigned the cause of the poor and the downtrodden, the emancipation of women, and improvement of the conditions of the lower caste untouchables, whom he called as Harijans, that means children of God. So please underline this. The cause, he campaigned for what? Basically, number one, cause for the poor and downtrodden people, for the poor people, for the downtrodden people, for the women, for improving the conditions of lower caste people, that is the untouchables. Yeah, improvement of the conditions of untouchables. And how, what was the untouchables called as?
Harijan.
Harijans. Okay. He worked tirelessly to remove prejudices which were there in the mindset of the people. Do not underline the whole paragraph. Okay. Next, he Gandhiji had worked, to remove all the prejudices which were there in the mindset of the people. Why? Because you remember the earlier Indian society treated the untouchables with a lot of hatred, right? They were not allowed to enter any society. They were not allowed to enter in the temples. They were not allowed to use the wells. Okay, so for that, what did he do? He worked on removing all these prejudice mindset of the people. He believed that political freedom was meaningless without social reforms. Laws would be effective only if there was a change of heart. So whatever laws if we are bringing in, if the people are ready to accept, only then it will be effective. This is what was his belief. Gandhiji's early campaign. Okay, now let's see how did he started his campaigns, okay, against the Britishers. Gandhiji returned to India in 1915 and began to take an interest in national politics. His campaigns, underline this, his early campaigns at Kheda, Champaran and Ahmedabad. Kheda, Champaran and Ahmedabad, okay, that's it, were also his first experiments with satyagraha. Underline. So he experimented satyagraha in these places, okay, in 3 local areas, each with a distinct problem. So he started his movement with these 3 different places. One was Kheda, one was Champaran, and one was Ahmedabad, where he experimented his policy of fighting with the Britishers through Satyagraha. Now, these 3 places had 3 different problems. Okay, the problems, the issues were not same. Now, let's see in Champaran what was the problem and how did he fought over there. Okay, basically, please underline this. Gandhiji compassion the cause of the tenant, no, underline this, tenant farmers of Champaran district, okay, against the oppression, and that's it, against the oppression and exploitation of the British indigo planters, underline indigo planters. The movement was a success and the peasants received compensation. Okay, now what happened over here? It's not given in much detail, but I'll just explain to you what exactly had happened in Champaran. So basically in Champaran, who were the people who were suffering? It was the tenant farmers in the Champaran districts. And why were they suffering? They were suffering because of the indigo. Now, what were the Britishers doing? Indigo is a plant which gives rich blue color, and that's expensive, which the Britishers used to take from India, and they would go in England and sell it out. All right, I hope. And then, what the Britishers used to do? They used to force these tenant farmers to grow indigo. But it was a problem for the farmers. Why? Because if at all they cultivate indigo would utilize all the fertility of the soil. Okay, so the farmers had huge losses, and that's the reason the farmers who were owning the land gradually became the tenants of the same land which they owned earlier. Okay, so this is how the Britishers were exploiting them. So this was the first problem, which in which Gandhiji, achieved success. Okay, he received success and peasants received the compensation, whatever compensation, whatever problems they had, whatever, how they had lost their land. Okay, so they got the compensation with through the Britishers. So this was his first success at Champaran. Now let's see Ahmedabad mill strike. Okay, we had seen Kheda, Champaran and Ahmedabad, right? Now let's see in Ahmedabad what had happened. Gandhiji organized a workers' strike against the exploitative Indian mill owners in Ahmedabad. The mill owners finally agreed to increase the salary of the workers. So over here, just remember, workers organized a workers' strike against mill owners. Organized, underline, organized workers' strike against mill owners. Okay, so this is how he had, the mill owners, how they were exploiting these people, the workers, by not giving them, they were asking them to work for hours, they were asking them to work for extra time, but they were not given any extra payment, and their health working condition was also not good. So all these problems was faced by the people, workers living in Ahmedabad. Now, and after this agitation, the mill owners finally agreed and they gave salaries to the workers. Underline, they agreed and increased the salaries of the workers when Gandhiji. So this was Gandhiji's second success. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, children. Okay, next is Kheda Satyagraha. So Kheda is in Gujarat. Now let's see what was the problem over here and how did Gandhiji resolve. Gandhiji advised and convinced the cultivators of Kheda district to stop paying land revenue. This is important to the government. Okay, underline, to stop paying land revenue to the government. Why? We will see now. Because the crops had failed. Okay, the peasants' demand for remission of land tax was accepted by the government. Please underline this. Okay, see that was one point where the crops had failed, and so Gandhiji guided them not to pay the tax, and the Britishers had to accept this. So that over here also it was accepted. Clear, everyone? All these 3 pointers, the 3 campaigns with Gandhiji, began his
Yes, ma'am.
struggle with the against the Britishers using the method or experimenting his method of satyagraha, and in which he was successful in all these 3 places. Now we'll see these victory in these 3 places, how it had a great impact on the rest of the Indians. Okay, we'll stop here for today and we'll continue in the next class. Have you all understood till here? Everyone understood till here?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.